know I've been gone for a week. Real life took over. Trash my energy. That's what happens, when you think, when you take on new projects. Takes your time, takes all your energy, but it's all good. Focused, ready to go. Back at it. Do not fear, I have returned. Welcome to Breaking the Law with Eddie Law, only on Spreaker.com and the Spreaker app. I am your host, Eddie Law. If this is your first time listening to the show, thank you for joining us tonight, my friends. I hope to entertain you for the time you listen to me babble about sports. To those who have been listening, thank you very much for coming back. Appreciate that. Let's get right to it. As always, I highly encourage audience participation. Forget the fourth wall. Just reach out on Twitter at eLaw31, on the chat, on Spreaker.com or the Spreaker app, and on the Breaking the Law Skype line at 602-903-3906. You do not need Skype to call in, by the way, because somebody was asking about that. So, give me a call. On tonight's show, circus fights, failed trades, the Rams release some surprising players, and the Cowboys two Cowboys throw down in a cage. But first, let's talk about some interesting stuff. One of the stories I read this weekend, and honestly, I read about it because I saw it on Twitter. Everyone was talking about it. Turns out, the Apollo 10 mission. Now, the Apollo missions were basically the missions to go to the moon, right? If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Apollo 11 or 12. I think 11. That was the one with Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and the dude that stayed up in the command module while those two were walking on the moon. But everyone always forgets that guy. But they remember the two main guys, right? But Apollo 11 was one that actually orbited the moon. And the actual, first of all, they reported this back in the day, and I think in 2008 the transcripts came out of exactly what was said in the LEM and the command module, wherever they were at. They probably were in the command module. And the actual audio came out this week of turns out two astronauts, the two astronauts in the command module, Eugene Cernan and John Young, they were orbiting the moon. They were on the other side of the moon. Basically, when a spacecraft goes on the other side of the moon, away from the Earth, you lose all contact, right? Radio contact, line of sight, all that stuff, because there's no satellites around the moon that can relay a signal from the Earth to the other side to communicate with anything, right? Any astronauts, anything. So, while they were out there in radio silence and everything, they heard the creepiest just noise ever. Now, I tried to get this off YouTube and to put it on here, but I'm not 100% sure on any kind of copyright infringement, so I held back on that. But you can you just go to YouTube and type in Apollo 10 space music. That's exactly how they described it too. The weird part to me was that they actually considered not talking about it, not telling anybody about it. Just like, let's just not tell anybody about it. And it sounds kind of creepy, but the official story is that it was interference between the LEM, which is basically the landing module, the LEM, and the command module's radio. Now, of course, the best part of stories like this is basically when UFO nuts pick it up and run with it. And it's hilarious. It really is. It's to me, it's always funny when you hear something, like any kind of story that could be, not easily, explained, but it's immediately thought of as some kind of conspiracy. The aliens are here, and the government wants to cover it up. That's why they held back this audio for so long. I told you, they're here, and everyone in the government is a reptilian. A bunch of the crazy stuff that people say out there. So, I just want to talk about it for some reason. It's hilarious to me. But look on the other side. If it is space music, it's the creepiest shit I ever heard in my life. So, like the Suns winning a game. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that, man. This dude's always banging on this, just ragging on the Suns, man. But since you want to talk about NBA, let's talk about some NBA. Trade deadline came and went. February 18th, I believe is when it was, or 19th, 18th or 19th, one of those. Kevin Love stayed put. Nothing really big happened. The biggest trade was Channing Frye to Cleveland. That's literally the biggest trade that was pulled off, okay? So let's go down the line real quick of what happened. Kevin Love stays put in Cleveland. There was rumors of a Kevin Love to Boston, possibly Melo to Cleveland or whatever. The other one that I was thinking might have happened was Blake Griffin to New York, Melo to Cleveland, and Kevin Love to Boston. But of course, nothing happened. Cleveland claiming that 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 nobody ever gave a real offer for Kevin Love, and also he's gonna be expensive. Kevin Love is definitely an expensive player to trade for. He's expensive to sign. And yeah, exactly. The other one was Markieff Morris. And it wasn't really that big of a trade, but you know, I think the other thing they were talking about was getting Ryan Anderson from the Pelicans, with I think Kevin Love going to Boston and Sterlinger and somebody else going in New Orleans. I don't know what they were thinking about doing, but it's always salary cap issues. So here's what actually went down. Cleveland gets Channing Frye from the Orlando Magic for Anderson Varejao, Jared Cunningham going to Portland. And they both got waived, I believe. In fact, Anderson Varejao just signed with the Warriors, the Golden State Warriors. So now they get some inside intel on Cleveland. Anyway, and then Portland gets a conditional first rounder from Cleveland, and Orlando gets a second rounder from Portland. It's all about saving money. I think the move saved Orlando or the move I think gets Orlando to $45 million in cap space. They just got rid of Tobias Harris. So to me, it was an awful trade, but whatever. And then it saved Cleveland $10 million by trading away Anderson. So I mean, it was all about money. That's really what it was about. There was nothing basketball about it. I'm sure Cleveland would have loved to sign Varejao back after that, but it just didn't work out. Tim says that he solved some cap issues. Someone will take a pay cut to pay Whiteside. You hope so, right? And I mean, who's the guy? The guy you're talking about has got to be Dwayne Wade. Luol Deng gets I think $9-10 million a year, so maybe he could take one. I'm not sure. But you're gonna have to pay, Whiteside for sure. Here's the thing: there was a rumor saying that they were gonna try to trade Dwight Howard to the Heat for Hassan Whiteside, but that would have been just a cap nightmare for Miami. So, and not to mention, Dwight Howard is. He's not as good as Whiteside is this year. Whiteside, all he needs is a little more maturity and a little more experience, and he'd be a good center. As long as he stops losing his mind during games and starting fights and stuff. I mean, look, Goran Dragic could take a pay cut, but I'm not sure Goran Dragic is that kind of guy. But look, if it worked out, look, I'm a full believer that Pat could definitely talk anybody into anything almost. So. Yeah, that's the thing he's got. He can negotiate with anybody. All right, another move here. Kirk Heinrich to the Hawks for a second round pick. The Bulls are beginning to strip down that team. They tried to trade Pau Gasol, it didn't work out, and so now they're like, oh no, Pau Gasol's in the future plans for sure. Yeah, I'm sure he is, man. I'm sure he is. Then Markieff Morris. Look, the Phoenix Suns have been trying to get rid of this guy for a while, but you can't trade away a player that has any kind of value when they start complaining and crying about stuff. You got to do it when they played well. So after they fired Jeff Hornacek, Markieff Morris was actually playing kind of decent. So they were like, now's the time. So they waited to literally the last 15 minutes of the deadline. But Markieff Morris goes to the Wizards for Chris Humphries and Dejounte Blair. Blair was waived. Humphries was not. In fact, he played like a night or two ago and had a double his first night with the Suns. I'm not saying he's any good. I'm saying that he did something. So, and then a protected 2016 first rounder, basically protected meaning that if it's between picks 1 and 9, the Suns don't get that pick. If it's 10 and over, the Suns get the Wizards first rounder. So you kind of hope it works out. You want the Wizards to be bad, but not that bad, So what does this move do for both teams? The Suns continue to tank, okay, and they get rid of Markieff Morris and possibly pick up a first rounder. And the Wizards can still sign Beal to a max deal and still have $25 million in cap space going into the offseason. So they could possibly sign a third piece to help them. So I think if they were able to pull that off, sign Beal to a max contract and then get a third piece, like a really good third piece, they can contend with Cleveland for the East. Sam says, I'm still a firm believer that Pat Riley is better basketball mind than Phil Jackson. When it comes to the overall, I would have to agree with you. When it comes to coaching, I think Phil's just a little bit above. When it comes to strictly coaching, right? And when it comes to motivating and all sort of stuff, you could say they both got their different ways, but I'd go with Pat Riley as well. Like, I'll tell you what, if you made me the owner of a team and you said you got between Pat Riley and Phil Jackson and one of them, you can only pick one of them and they're going to run your franchise for the next 10 years, please believe I pick Pat Riley all day over Phil Jackson, especially with how it's gone in New York. The first good thing he did was draft Porzingis, and the second good thing he did for New York was fire Derek Fisher because he's awful. Anyway, all right, the Clippers making a move themselves. Lance Stevenson to Memphis for Jeff Green, which is it's just it's what's his name? It's Doc Rivers going getting players back that he liked back when he was in Boston, and Doc Rivers is not the best GM. He's not going to make the best deal. So I mean, hey, look. The Clippers get rid of a lottery protected 2019 first round pick. That goes to Memphis. And then Memphis begins, basically, they're going to get rid of guys because without Marc Gasol, who's injured, they're not winning games. I mean, plain and simple, they're not making the playoffs. But, Oklahoma City gets Randy Foye from Denver for DJ Augustin, Steve Novak, and two second round picks. Look, OKC gets a solid scorer off a bench, and he can run the point. Randy Foye is a good combo guard, a really good combo guard that can shoot with the best of them, in my opinion. So I think OKC did real well. On top of it, they saved $9.8 million in salary and luxury tax. So it's all good in Oklahoma City, and they're still competitive. By the way, a lot of talk about Kevin Durant as soon as we go into when he becomes a free agent. What's he going to do? Is he going to go to New York? Is it LA? And all that stuff. And apparently, someone said I didn't hear it directly from him. I was listening to Colin Cowherd earlier today. He was saying that Kevin Durant has said that he'll only leave for a team that can beat OKC. And, the only team I think that can afford to get him is Golden State. I don't think he's going to do that, but we'll see. All right, Utah Jazz get Shelvin Mack from the Hawks for a second-round pick. That really means nothing. And Detroit would have gotten Donatas Montejunas and Marcus Thornton for Joel Anthony and a protected first-rounder, but the trade was voided due to the fact that Donatas failed his physical in Detroit today. So that didn't work out at all. Dude, he wants to be in LA, but his in-law doesn't want him there. His in-law? What are you talking about? Tim's letting me know on the chat. Says, dude, he wants to be in LA, but his in-law doesn't want him there. You talking about Kevin Durant? Because I don't think there's no way. Yeah. And then Brooklyn Nets get a new GM. They get a new GM on the day of the trade deadline. Phil Jackson wants to be in LA. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, Phil Jackson wanted to be have a front office position with the Lakers, but the Lakers wanted him to be coach. And Phil Jackson's too old and physically beat up to be a coach. So, he is with Jeannie Buss, that's right. And by the way, Jeannie Buss making some questionable decisions there for the Lakers. But I guess with the end of the Kobe Bryant era, you kind of got to usher in an entire new era, front office, everybody. And the question begins now: what happens to Scott? You know what I mean? Byron Scott. I almost call him Baron Davis. Byron Scott is, he's in the hot seat. He's been in the hot seat all season, definitely. But now you got to wonder, is he going to come back next year? They're going to bring him back. Supposedly they're leaning towards bringing him back. I think it depends on who's available on the market. I mean, with Tom Thibodeau out there, I don't know how you don't at least look at him. But Tom Thibodeau does push players real hard. Then again, LA has very young players. So I think they could get pushed pretty hard. But I think Thibodeau's going to end up being in New York. That's my call. Oh, everyone's like, oh, Minnesota. He'd be a good player. He'd be a good coach in Minnesota because they got what Carl Anthony Towns and I see his face, Wiggins, Andrew Wiggins. Both players play real good defense, and Tom Thibodeau's a defensive coach. So, and when you got scorers like when you got a passer like Ricky Rubio, and you got scorers like Andrew Wiggins, like Shabazz Muhammad, you can afford to take a defensive coach and just get points off of defense. That's the best way to do it, right? I mean, look at the Warriors. The Warriors are one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. But all anyone thinks about the Warriors is that they're they just let the 3 points fly. The 3-pointers fly, and they score a lot of points. Well, it's because they play defense. They get turnovers and they run. That's how the Warriors' offense works. Defense turns into offense. It's the oldest thing in the book, really. So they're gonna keep doing it till I think the Warriors are gonna keep winning like that until they get injured. Somebody gets injured. One of the main guys, whether it's Steph Curry, or Thompson or anybody like that. And I'll tell you what, if Andre Iguodala is out ever goes out with an injury, they're in deep trouble. Okay, Andre Iguodala is the unsung hero of the Golden State Warriors. All right, last piece of NBA news here before we take a break and move on to some NFL. The Brooklyn Nets hire Spurs assistant GM Sean Marks to be the general manager for the Nets. Late word was that he was leaning towards staying with San Antonio. Probably would have been the right move, but the money was too much for Marks to pass over. So he's not the Brooklyn Nets GM, and you got to wonder what's going to happen with him. I mean, look, I'll give you a prime example. The Suns hired Ryan McDonough, who's basically a Danny Ainge disciple from back in Boston, and look at how it's worked out, or hasn't. So we'll see what happens there. If a possible San Antonio front office thing where everyone starts wanting, San Antonio guys starts happening here. All right, gotta take a real quick break, get some water. Be right back. We're gonna talk some NFL. Panthers legend Jared Allen rides off into the sunset, literally, kinda. And the Rams make some questionable moves. All that and more. Be right back on Breaking the Law with Eddie Law. We're back here on Breaking the Law with Eddie Law, only on Spreaker app at Spreaker.com. Hit me up on Twitter at eLaw31. Also on the chat on Spreaker app at Spreaker.com. And of course, the BTL Skype line, 602-903-3906. Continuing on, let's talk some NFL, man. Panthers, Panthers Jared Allen, defensive end, one of the coolest dudes, honestly. He's one of the, he was kind of a douche, to be honest with you. But most jocks, most professional athletes are. To be honest, there's a very short list of guys that really aren't. But he's a legend in Minnesota. Played all right with the Bears, and they traded him to the Panthers. What he made, he made a Super Bowl run. He fell short, but all right. So Jared Allen puts up this video where he's supposed to ride into the sunset, right off into the sunset and all that. But it was cloudy wherever he was. I'm assuming Minnesota. It was cloudy, so he just rode off on a horse. So I like that kind of thing, where players just announce it, instead of doing the whole, the Ray Lewis, goodbye tour that he did in every single game. What Kobe Bryant's doing now. Kobe Bryant, before the season started, announced he was going to retire, I think. Or late, just at the start of the season, I think he announced he was going to retire. And he's been getting all these, thank you Kobe Bryant videos and gifts and all this whole, goodbye Kobe, thank you Kobe tour that he's going through. So I appreciate the veterans that did all they could, and they just, literally just right off into the sunset. And Jared Allen's going to be a Hall of Famer, for sure. Not sure how long it's going to take, but he's a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, for sure. All right. The LA Rams, that's weird to say, right? Los Angeles Rams, they're saying the St. Louis Rams. The Los Angeles Rams. They cut Chris Long, defensive end Chris Long, tight end Jared Cook, and linebacker James Laurinaitis in a move to save money. So, look, it's a new identity they're trying to come up with with the Rams in LA. They might even choose the color scheme. There's a lot of rumors going around, right? So, they're just trying to change their identity. And cutting those three guys, honestly, three of their best players. Cutting three of those guys is part of that, and it's just how the business works, or at least how they think it's going to work. Personally, I hope they join the Cardinals. All three of those guys should just sign with the Cardinals and get some revenge on the Rams. Twice a year. At least sign Chris Long and James Laurinaitis. So, the Cardinals need those two guys for sure. But I think that it would give him a chance to get back at the Rams, stay in the NFC West, and honestly come to a team that's on the rise instead of a team that's basically hitting the reset button in the LA Rams. Another story here. This one's a little more fun / jacked up, messed up, whatever. Former Cowboys running back Joseph Randle, we all remember that guy. He apparently hit 3 people with his car, or I think 2 people with his car, and then he broke into a house and was arrested in Wichita, Kansas. All this is alleged, of course, because he hasn't been, convicted of anything. But the story is that Randall was ordered to leave a party early on Sunday morning and then allegedly hit the 2 owners of the house as he backed out of the driveway. Then he came back to the house. He busted through the front door. All this alleged, of course. He busted through the front door and started more trouble, according to the Wichita police. He's currently jailed on $10,000 bond. I'm sure he probably got it by now. And look, for a guy that wants to get back in the NFL, he's certainly not helping his case. Now, why do players lose their minds like this? Joseph Randle losing his mind. Johnny Manziel losing his mind. All these players, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, CTE, it's a concussion. Very possible. It also could be the fact that these guys were, pampered because of their athletic abilities in college and in high school, and they think they deserve everything. And it's just, I don't know, it's an attitude problem. It really is an attitude problem with these guys. All right, last NFL story. Jets release Antonio Cromartie after 1 season in New York. Weak season, but still. Here's the thing about that. Cromartie signed a 4-year deal with the Jets. And it's incredible. Really is incredible. They signed 4 years. Now, here's why I'm not against the Jets cutting Cromartie. Todd Bowles, former Arizona defensive coordinator, is now the head coach in New York. He's a former defensive back. So, he knows what a defensive back looks like, what a cornerback looks like. So, maybe he didn't see enough from him, and he's just like, hey, look, we just don't have, we need to give someone else a chance. We don't have room for you. So, what happens to Cromartie? Probably goes to a contender. Maybe comes back to Arizona. He did well here in the 1 year he was here. Fang speaks. I like that better. Fang speaks on the chat. Rumor has it that the Jets are trying to steal New England's defensive coordinator. And I think you talk about the big bearded guy. You know what? He's done pretty good with that defense. But he does have Chandler Jones and a couple of Malcolm Butler, those guys. So it's not a bad defense. It wasn't able to stop the weak, Denver Broncos offense. Mind you, Panthers weren't able to do it either. Money has gone to their head. Yeah, money goes to the athlete's head. But here's the thing: is when you give someone that's never had anything other than Manziel might just be a butthole, just on his own. He's just a douche, right? But guys like Randall, other guys that grew up with nothing. You give them all this money out of nowhere, it's gonna weird them out. It's gonna be crazy, and then it's gonna be this new crazy reality they won't be able to handle. Fang speaks. Fang says Cromartie didn't produce enough to be honest to be good for New York. Yeah, no, you're right. Cromartie had a down year for sure. Honestly, he shouldn't have been a hard transition. It was Todd Bowles' defense. So that tells you another thing. That definitely he's changed since he was in the desert with Todd Bowles. So you got to wonder, what's next for Cromartie. He's not going to retire. He'll play like one more year and then call it. All right, let's switch over to boxing real quick. And only because I want to talk about Manny Pacquiao. So Manny Pacquiao got dropped by Nike for his homophobic comments. Pacquiao basically compared gay people to animals. First of all, you can't say anything even close to offensive these days because someone is going to get offended. Someone's going to go out and get crazy and start saying a bunch of stuff, and you're going to lose. For sure, you lose money, you lose all these things, right? Second of all, it's a really dick thing to say. Now, I know he's part of the, I don't know if he's a congressman or a senator or something like that in the Philippines. But you can't be saying stuff like this in a world that's progressing, right? Especially if you're trying to, help your country move, right? Like to help your country get better and improve relations with the rest of the world. Now, real quick, back to football because I want to talk about this too. Fang says next big release, the Dolphins are going to realize how much of a huge mistake Sue is. 100%. I said it from the beginning. First of all, you do not pay a defensive player quarterback money, i.e., Ndamukong Suh and J.J. Watt. Hate if you want. I kept telling people during the season they need to trade J.J. Watt. Just trade him, cut him, whatever you got to do, buy him out or renegotiate his contract. But J.J. Watt gets paid way too much money, like a ridiculous amount of money, and the Texans are going to keep being awful unless A, they get lucky in the draft and get a good quarterback, or B, they get rid of him and use that money to patch holes and get better. That's literally it. J.J. Watt has the contract that he has because, he's popular. And they sell his jerseys, and that's literally it. Fang says that I would take Watt any day over Sue. Oh, absolutely. I would take Watt any day over Sue, 100%. But I would not take Watt's contract, and it's awful. Okay? It really is a bad contract. All right, back to boxing. So, the comments that Manny Pacquiao made are basically these. Quote, it's common sense. Animals are better because they can distinguish male from female. If men mate with men and women mate with women, they are worse than animals. Now, these comments he made to a Philippines TV station called TV5. Nike heard this, of course, and were real quick to cut him. He goes, the Nike response was the following. Quote, we find Manny Pacquiao's comments abhorrent. Nike strongly opposes discrimination of any kinds and has a long history of supporting and standing up for the rights of the LGBT community. We no longer have a relationship with Manny Pacquiao, end quote. So of course you're going to lose that sponsor. You can't be walking around saying stuff like that. We're in a new world. This is a new era of human beings. You can't be going on throwing out hateful stuff like that just because you believe in the Bible. Yeah, believe in what you want. Have whatever religious beliefs you have if you want to. But when you're in a seat of power like you are in Congress or the Senate, whatever he does in the government in the Philippines, okay, you need to put that stuff aside. It's a dumb comment to say. It's a ridiculously dumb comment to say. First of all, to compare human beings to animals, get out of here with that, dude. The only people that are like animals or just like the worst criminals on the planet, okay? But gay people, really, they're worse than animals. You gotta be out of here. Get out of here with that. I mean, come on, man. That honestly, that to me, that continues what my feeling has been about, or my thought has been about. I want to say 90% of, let's say 85. We'll be conservative. 85% of professional athletes is that they're pretty dumb. I honestly look if you see, first of all, you can tell from their actions. You don't have to speak to them. You can tell from their actions that a lot of professional athletes are pretty stupid people, and it's not always their fault. Now, a lot of them didn't grow up with education. A lot of them are very uneducated people, so they're gonna do dumb stuff. But Manny Pacquiao, that was a stupid comment. Fang says in the chat, says Floyd is thanking God he said those comments because he won't have to get a rematch. Look, even if there was a rematch, Pacquiao's not winning it. It's just not. That's the thing. Remember that fight? Everyone was upset about Pacquiao. Pac-Man against Floyd. Finally, we're going to get a good fight. It's going to be back and forth, and Pac-Man might actually win. Newsflash, I wasn't surprised of what happened, and I wasn't going to pay to watch Floyd dance around and out quick Manny Pacquiao. The reason Floyd Mayweather waited this long to fight him is because he was waiting for Manny Pacquiao to get old. That's how the boxing game works. It's how the boxing game works. And MMA might be going that way, especially with how much Conor McGregor and all these guys are getting paid. But at least the top, 3 or 4 fighters are getting paid. Dude, I swear he won that fight against Floyd. He hurt Floyd. Hey, look, man, I thought he had a chance, but Floyd's just too quick. Floyd's the perfect fighter. He doesn't get hit, and he hits you back. He's like boxing's Dominic Cruz almost. Except I give Dominic Cruz way more credit, my opinion. But anyway, gonna take another quick break. Come back. I'll be back for the last segment of the show. Of course, my favorite segment of all, the MMA segment. We'll talk BJ Penn, a few fights that are getting made. Well, of course, we gotta talk that Bellator circus this weekend, and of course, World Series Fighting and UFC Pittsburgh. All of this and more when I come back. This is Breaking the Law with Eddie Law only on Spreaker app, Spreaker.com. We're back here on Breaking the Law with Eddie Law. Only a Spreaker app at Spreaker.com. This is the last segment, so if you want to throw out opinions, any comments, hit me up on Twitter at eLaw31, on the chat on Spreaker app and Spreaker.com, and of course the BTL phone line 602-903-3906. And during the break, I was talking back and forth with Fang on here about the Bellator card, and it was pretty bad, yeah. So much gassed out dudes, it should have been sponsored by Fire Energy, says Fang. Yeah, I agree. It's pretty bad. The entire Bellator card was actually kind of crappy. The retirement home grudge match and the Big Mac street fight. Exactly. It was just awful. So, yeah, real quick, let's get into it now. Sorry, I saw a picture on Twitter of a chick that does squats, and that's amazing. All right. Let's talk a little bit about some stuff that went down last week, though. BJ Penn allegations of, look, first of all, the guy that put up those allegations, I talked about it before, if not on this show, on one of the many Crossroads shows. The complaint is legit. The charges have been filed, right? Or the complaint has been filed at least. And so now we wait to see what actually happens. And the UFC actually responded and said, basically said we're out of the BJ Penn business until, this whole thing gets worked out, which makes you think that their research might have found some legitimacy to these claims. Now the Twitter account of the guy that threw it out, a former BJPenn.com, I guess, editor or so, that has been, he made it private, so you can't read the tweets anymore. Because I guarantee he's getting a lot of crap from a lot of BJ Penn fans and a lot of people overall. But it's legitimately being investigated in Hawaii, and the charges I think were filed in Delaware, Ohio, something like that. So we're gonna find out what happened at some point. Unless of course they do something crazy like settle or something. Then we'll be on this whole Peyton Manning thing again. Watch. All right, a few fights that were just announced. Anthony Pettis versus Edson Barbosa, booked for UFC 197. Just make sure Anthony Pettis don't get hurt, because that would be awful. UFC is working on getting Alistair Overeem versus Andrei Arlovski, teammates, by the way, for the main event in Rotterdam. Neither fighter is going to leave Jackson, so they're just going to be training in the same place. But Greg Jackson will be cornering Arlovski. That's the latest on that. Rumors about Fabricio Verdum taking off Stipe Miocic for UFC 198, I believe, in Brazil. It's a rumor for now. Sort of a rumor. We kind of already heard that it's going to happen, but it hasn't been. It'll be announced at during the UFC 196 broadcast. Fang says, nah, UFC is just covering their money. Uncle Dana's more money hungry. He still won't answer us about having psychologists on call for these fighters. That's true. With this whole thing about Ronda Rousey being depressed and thinking about suicide and all that after she lost, you would think the UFC would be ahead of the game and having some kind of help for these guys, counselors, psychologists, somebody to talk to, right? So, yeah, that's really weird. Look, it's a business. It's about making money. It really is. But at some point, you guys start taking care of the guys that make the money for you, and the UFC's taking their sweet time helping those guys out. But anyway, let's get into the reviewing the events from this weekend. First of all, the World Series of Fighting main event. Marlon Moraes just beat the crap out of Joseph Barajas. It just kicked him into a TKO. That's how it ended. It ended because of a low kick. That was it. Fight done. Dude dropped, grabs his leg, and that was the end of the fight. So, Marlon Moraes would be awesome in the UFC, but I'm not sure on. Okay, here we go. Fang says, also, let's get this on the air now. Dan Hardy deserves a belt way more than Nick Diaz. I'm with you on that. I can't complain. I cannot go against that. I agree. I like Dan Hardy. I like who Dan Hardy is now. Back in the day when Dan Hardy was fighting early in his career, it was kind of hard to like him. But I think I became a Dan Hardy fan when he said he was going to slap the tan off of GSP. I love that quote. So that's when I became a big-time Dan Hardy fan. Immediately I was like, I like this guy. I'm cool with him. He's going to slap the tan off of GSP. Hell yeah, dude. Do it. No, it didn't work out, of course. But, if you read any of the stuff that he writes or you're watching anything that he does or listen to him listen to him talk about, the spiritual things that he does, he's just such a legit cool dude. He's one of those guys you want to hang out with and just pick his brain. Like, if I can get Dan Hardy on this show or on one of the Crossbone shows, guarantee we talk very little about MMA. We talk very little about MMA. We talk about ayahuasca ceremonies and getting help from plants and stuff like that. So yeah, for sure, that's exactly what I would do. I would barely talk MMA. I would have to talk MMA for sure, but I would barely talk some MMA with that guy. It'd be all about spirituality and all that stuff, that this transformation that Dan Hardy has gone through, and of course about his wolf heart. The dude has 2 freaking heartbeats, for crying out loud. It's the reason they won't clear him to fight. And so Marlon Moraes, beats the crap out of Barajas. Is he Bellator bound? Is he UFC bound? He made $140,000 for this fight. That went down in the rec center, by the way. Maybe 60 feet away from the last chair and the World Series of Fighting, near the cage or whatever, or at the end of the cage. It was 50 feet away. It was a girls' volleyball game going on. That was hilarious. 140 G's to the main event guy, and we're in a rec center. What happened? Fang saying Dan Hardy's a warrior. I want him to get cleared again, but his condition is an unfair advantage. I don't know if it's unfair advantage. I think they're afraid he's gonna have a heart attack, because his condition is actually pretty unknown. But I hope they give Dan Hardy a chance to fight at least one more time. Let him fight one more time. Let him fight somebody he wants to fight, and let him fight in a place he wants to fight, and let him go out his way. But I'm with you, man. I think Dan Hardy would. I would love to see Dan Hardy get a belt any day. But unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen. Nick Diaz with the belt probably not going to happen. With a UFC belt, probably not going to happen either. But one can hope. All right, of course, we got to talk about some Bellator 149. Okay. So, first of all, some, I guess, decent things. King Movers Philip Davis was announced, as was Bellator Kickboxing. How that's going to work, who knows? But they used to work with Glory. They did that Dynamite 1 show. And now they're going to do, Bellator Kickboxing. Then, of course, we get Kimbo Slice against Dada 5000, which set MMA back 20 years, it seems. It was, here's the thing about that fight. it was a joke. 100% joke. It was nothing. It was two guys that did not belong in a cage to fight. And in fact, one of them almost died. Dada 5000's heart stopped at the I think at the hospital or after the fight. At some point, his heart stopped. They had to put him on a ventilator. And I think at this point he's still in the hospital and they're waiting to get released. But regardless, it was an awful fight. It really was. I mean, dude, I don't know. Everybody was hoping for the Big Mac Street fight. Yeah, man, it was bad. And the reason it was bad for Dada is because he had to cut 40 pounds to make 265. That dude was heavy. All right, he was 305 pounds. He had to cut 40 to make the limit. Get out of here with that. On Dan Hardy, Fang saying they said it is an unfair advantage because his heart can perform at a different level or something. That's what I read when it first reported. Then you know what? That's not, if it's natural and it wasn't, he didn't get that with PEDs or surgery or anything. Tough stuff, dude. Let him fight. It's unfair if you don't let him fight because of that. If that's true, and it's really an unfair advantage, get out of here with that. If it's natural, he was born with it, tough stuff. Let the man fight. You can't stop a man from fighting or from earning a living because you're like, oh, it's not fair. Neither it wasn't fair when all these guys were juiced up to the gills, beating the crap out of everybody, was it? But you didn't say anything about them, huh? That's right. If Anderson Silva had the Dan Hardy thing, we would have never heard about it. Guaranteed, 100%. If he had the Wolfhard thing, no one would ever have heard of Anderson Silva having anything. For sure. They call him 5,000 because that's his hourly caloric intake. Yeah, Dada? Yeah, dude. That dude eats like crazy. For sure. Even McCarthy was laughing. Everybody was laughing. Joe Rogan tweeted out, like, this is the worst fight I've ever seen. Or, he's the worst fight I've ever seen. And then after, Kimbo quote-unquote won, because I don't think anyone won that fight. I think everyone lost. But Jimmy Smith, who actually calls the fights, he interviewed Kimbo Slice, walked out of the cage and tweeted, "I'm trying, guys. I'm trying." Like, he knew. He knew it was awful. I mean, I started thinking Scott Coker might be worse than Bjorn Rebney. Diz on Twitter, he tweeted that out. I agree completely. And I actually thought about it the night of the fight. I was like literally seconds after the fight, I was like, dude, Scott Coker's worse than Bjorn Rebney. By a lot. By a lot. Just an awful. If Dada had died, that's 100% on Coker. For real. It's 100% on Coker. And the Texas Athletic Commission, which, by all accounts and rumors and all the stuff that I've heard, are an awful, corrupt-ass commission. So, if anything happens to a guy like Dada, like to anybody, any athlete, Texas is definitely under the microscope right now. They're definitely going to be looking at those guys. UFC, please believe UFC paid attention to that. Okay? Anyway. Main event, Royce Gracie nutshots his way to a win, and Cam files an official complaint, and blah, 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 blah. Who cares? I did not need to watch 101 years of human fight in a cage. Those guys should not be fighting anyone. They should be taking a nap and having, soft cookies and, eating pie and just hanging out and teaching people martial arts instead of trying to fight. Royce Gracie, had that fight gone the way of Kimbo versus Dada, okay, that those two guys destroyed their legacies or at least put a big nasty dent on it. Luckily, the fight didn't last very long, but Royce Gracie did kick him in the nuts or knee him in the nuts, and that was it. Fang, so Fang knows Nick Pilecki, so, and of course everyone knows Nick Pilecki is a huge Anderson Silva fan. He was heartbroken when Wyman beat him twice in a row. And he said, Fang says this on the chat, and now I must mention Nick. Nick's heart will be broken. I believe Bisping will actually win. I believe he has a really good chance. I'll talk about that when I preview the card here in a second. Actually, let's just get into it. Oh no, let's review UFC Pittsburgh real quick, and then we'll talk about UFC London for sure. So, what do we learn from UFC Pittsburgh? Cowboy Cerrone Jiu-Jitsu is underrated like no other. How many good? I mean, there was actually a couple good knockouts. Oh, first of all, refs and the refs and the judges were awful in Texas. I mean, pretty clear, right? It was awful. I mean, Marion Reneau should have won that fight, and they gave it to Ashley Evans Smith, and that was an awful decision. I do have to give it up to Kelly Fastholz, came in on late replacement. and gave Lawrence Smith a really good fight. Anyway, sorry, I just read some weird stuff I don't even want to click on, but I might actually click on it. No, it's nothing crazy. Here's the thing. I'm on SureDog, and they have these around the web things, which I'm pretty sure are just them getting paid to post other people's stuff, but I'm not 100% sure. But this thing says, Ronda Rousey finally free to marry boyfriend. Who cares? I'm just wondering why that's even on there. So, all right. So anyway, when are the judges ever good? Never. But some of the rest were awful. And look, in the main event, how many times does Alex Oliveira have to tap before Mario Yamasaki stops the fight? Jeez. And how many awful stand-ups? The entire night it was full of awful stand-ups. The entire night was awful stand-ups left and right. It was just annoying and it pissed me off like no other. It really did. Oluwale Bangbos with a huge head kick knockout of Dana Serafian. Then Sean Strickland, baller, big old punch, like monster right hand punch, sends Alex Garcia flying back like it was Street Fighter. Chris Camozzi knees Joe Riggs into hopefully retirement. Joe Riggs, man, taking enough damage. And Chris Camozzi kneed him so bad he broke Joe Riggs' forearm. That's why he was holding his arm after the fight. Broke the forearm completely. So that's a sign to do to you, Joe. Your body's saying no more. Dennis Bermudez versus Kazuya Kawajiri. Kawajiri was a fight. Bermudez dominated, and Kawajiri survived as long as he could. And he survived the entire fight, but he lost. But it wasn't even close. Cody Garbrandt knocks out Augusto Mendez, which makes sense. But the weird thing about that, he knocks him down, and then Mario Yamasaki, who was the star of the night, gets right in the way of Cody, and Cody has to go around him to finish off Mendez. It was a weird thing. Derek Brunson with a big knockout of Juan Carnero, which isn't that impressive anymore because Juan Carnero is not the same guy that fought in Strikeforce and everything, especially after he got busted. And in the main event, Al Cerrone wins via triangle choke against a last-minute replacement, or late replacement, not last minute, but late replacement in Alex Oliveira. So you gotta respect Oliveira for stepping up the way he did and take on a very good, very dangerous, and obviously very, very underrated jiu-jitsu-wise Cowboy Cerrone. Real quick before we end the show here, let's talk about UFC London going down this weekend, Saturday. It actually starts at 9:45 a.m. Pacific time. That's a little before 1 o'clock p.m. in the East. And the entire thing's on Fight Pass. A lot of names that no one's going to recognize. But Norman Park against Hustam Kabalov is on there. Should be a pretty decent fight. Kabalov's probably going to destroy him. Christoph Jutko against Bradley Scott. Everyone's heard those names. Chris Dempsey against Scott Askham. Davey Grant, who was on that season of Tough with Ronda Rousey and Misha Tate. So we can't Zingano, but still. Davey Grant was on there. Marlon Vera, also from Tough. Except he was on the losing team on the first Latin America, I believe. Then Mike Wilkinson, the Warriors, who's actually pretty good, against Makwan Amirkhani, who I don't think it's enough. He doesn't get enough push. They need to promote this guy a little more. But they have him only on European cards. They need to bring him to Vegas, see what he can do here. Then this is a fun fight right here. Francisco Rivera against Brad Pickett. Both guys like to sit and basically stand and bang for lack of a better term. But Francisco Rivera is one of those guys that has a game plan, goes in there, and the second you punch him or he gets punched in the face, he throws that game plan out the window, sits down, and says, "Come on, let's go, knockout time." So Francisco Rivera is always a guy you need to watch, especially against a guy like Brad Pickett who likes to strike as well. Someone's going to sleep, or should. Then Tom Breeze against Keita Nakamura. Tom Breeze, of course, the last guy to defeat Cathal Pendra, which we are all very, very happy about. Then in the co-main event, Gegard Mousasi against Taylor Slatis. Gegard needs his win. He needs it badly. I mean, quite clearly, he just needs it badly. Not because he's going to get cut from the UFC, but because if he wants to keep any kind of momentum towards a title, he needs to prove that loss against Uriah Hall was a fluke. And in the main event, Anderson Silva against Michael Bisping. And Fang says, dude, pick a fight as my vote for fight of the night. Yeah, it's my pick as well. I'm picking them to be fight of the night with Bisping Silva being a close second. Not even close, just I'd say close second, depending on which Bisping shows up. And more importantly, which Silva shows up. Now, Fang was talking about Nick's going to be upset because Anderson Silva's going to lose. Michael Bisping could win. I think if the Silva that fought Nick Diaz shows up, Bisping's going to win. I fully believe that. The guy that showed up to fight Nick Diaz was nervous, borderline scared, showed flashes of the old spider, but, Nick Diaz laid on the ground in front of him and had that whole paint me like one of your French girls or whatever. Pose that he did on the mat when he laid down and stuff. First of all, if you don't think he was high during the fight, for sure he was high. When he did that, I was like, this dude's high, out of his mind. Yeah, but maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Who knows? But if Anderson Silva shows up and his pre-Nick Diaz Anderson Silva, basically the guy that fought Chris Weidman, even though the first time probably, I think he's going to destroy Michael Bisping. But I'm not sure that Anderson Silva has that confidence anymore. All that he's gone through, he's been out for a little over a year. All the talk about the Thai dick pills and all that, the steroids, the first time he was actually, according to him, the first time he was randomly tested was when he got caught with the Thai pills. So many things against Anderson Silva, age, he's been gone, but the one thing he has on his side is he's still Anderson Silva, and that's still Michael Bisping, the one night count. So, and Fang can make his good point. Silva's scared to get hurt again. I think so too. I don't think he wants to get hurt. I think he knows if he gets hurt, he's going to get embarrassed. So that's kind of where it's at. So it's hard for me to pick. I'm leaning towards Bisping because I don't think we're going to get the old Silva back ever. But if the old Silva shows up, man, Bisping's in trouble. So, but I'm thinking Bisping has a good chance to win this fight. Just because I don't think we're going to get the old Anderson Silva back ever again, really. All right. Wow, I can't. I did the Spanish MMA show. We have a Spanish MMA show called Encerrados en la Jaula. I did that right before this. So, excuse me, throat's starting to hurt and dry up a little bit. So I got to, luckily it's the end of the show. So we'll get to go. It's a lot of weird things going on in sports. February is always a slow month in sports. But, you always got to find, there's always something to talk about. It's just you got to find different ways to talk about it, of course. But, things are about to pick up a little more here, and as baseball starts up. In fact, I think pitchers and catchers have shown up already in some places, right? They already reported. So, I'm gonna start talking about baseball when it kicks off. A lot of stuff, trades have been going on, trade talks. There's a lot to talk about baseball, but I'm not going to talk about it just yet. As we get closer to the season, we're going to talk about that. All right, last comment here from Fang here on the chat. Bisping has nothing to lose here. If he bangs with Silva, he gets a decision. He'll be praised. If Bisping loses via decision, he'll still win. Yeah. Well, hey, look, he wanted that Silva fight. He got the Silva fight, and so now it's on him to show up. All right, that's gonna do it for me tonight. Fang says, watch out for the Miami. The Marlins, you mean? Or the Heat in the playoffs? But it's going to do it for me tonight. Appreciate everyone listening. The schedule for this show is now, and I'm going to throw it out there to make, hold myself accountable, I guess. Breaking the Law with Eddie Law will be live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights every week. The Marlins are going to be good this year. I'm about to read up on them. I'm only like 6 or 7 teams in as far as doing my research, so I got to keep going. I'll research them next for sure. Anyway, Breaking Law with Eddie Law Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Of course, I'll be announcing it on Twitter the day of, so make sure everyone knows what's going on. Thank you for joining me tonight. You can follow me on Twitter at Elaw31. Shout out to, I'm calling Fang, because I like that. Fang speaks. I like that. Shout out to you, my friend. Appreciate you listening. Shout out to anybody else listening on here. This will be up on YouTube tomorrow morning. Follow me at Elaw31 on Twitter and on Spreaker. And I'll catch you guys later, Wednesday night, for the next Breaking Law with Eddie Law. See ya!